one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned, because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, I want to welcome you to the show. And of course, like I always love to do is, especially now as we're coming into our launch and having to reflect on 23 years, that song that you heard came from Nick Johnson, one of the first interns that ever worked here, foundational for what we did back on Ravenna Boulevard and working out of, even before working out of the basement to create what you all are seeing now is our transition and change. And I want to thank Nick for that beautiful song. And he's produced other music for us, Off into a Better World. Interns that work here usually pop out and do something great. And it's just an honor to work with people that are so committed, and we're so committed to our story. And that's what today's about. How do you own your story? And I have to say, my very special guest, Shareese Evans, joining me here today. For those of you out there, I want you to just take this in for a minute and just feel it. Own your story. See, it's 3 words. That sounds like that should be simple to do. You're going to hear today that it could be simple to do. And you could also hear that you have to really face yourself, as we talked about yesterday, mirrors and windows. So today, you're going to take the journey of Shareese Evans from a small town girl, totally opposite of where I was born, to teenage parents, right? Grandparents, so much that we have in common with our journey and our moms' journeys. But finding the way, how did we find the way? How did we get to where we are? And while we sit here and we look pretty dang good, if I might say today, it wasn't a smooth road. It was a version of the long and winding road that kicked it up with a couple of boulders and some monsters in there. And yet, here we are. Today, I want to introduce you to somebody that has gone past all of that. Dynamic certified life coach, international bestseller of The Power of One, degree in psychology. I mean, I can go on about this. Consulting firm, 14 years in the tech industry. And you see, these are the things that have helped us, both you and I, Shareese. Welcome to the show. Let's welcome you, because we're going to talk a lot about you today, right?
Hello, Dr. Pat.
Great to have you. I think about these things, and as I'm reading, of course, you and I have talked before, but as I really am leaning into us today, and I recognize that those 3 words sound so simple, but I got to tell you, I'm having a hard time doing it for myself. I have a press release that's supposed to go out here in a day or two, and I'm looking at it and I'm having a hard time owning that. So I'm hoping I'm going to get some free coaching today from you, okay?
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. And Dr. Pat, let me just say thank you so much for having me on your show today, and shout out to all of the veterans, because it is Veterans
Yes.
Day. And for those that either fought or they paid the ultimate price of their life, and to the families that also supported our veterans. We always tend to leave the families out, but as much as they have to serve, the families serve with them. And so we want to honor you today on Veterans Day, and a shout out to you and your families, because as we all know, freedom is not free. We all have to fight to have the freedoms that we have each and every day. So grateful to be with you.
Well, thank you for reminding us of that, because, we're going to talk about the story, right? Who am I? Okay, so really short. When I was 17, I tried to join the military. I absolutely was, I come from a service family. My favorite aunt was in the military. I mean, highly encouraged, and they thought it would get me off the street, keep me out of jail, was good. And, I went down that journey, but my dad wouldn't sign. At 17 back then, you had to have a signer, right?
Yep.
So, why wouldn't my dad sign? So my dad says, I'm not putting you any place where you're going to get a gun in your hand because I am not going to be responsible for that. So, part of a story from somebody else's lens, but now, what is the lens that we want to share today? What is the lens that you're looking through when you look at the question, who am I?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And just as your father denied you the opportunity to serve in the military, my father absolutely did serve in the military to stay out of trouble. But he found trouble even, after serving. He had PTSD and basically struggled with drug addiction after joining the military. And, that led to a whole nother level of
Yeah,
trauma in my own life. And so, as you mentioned to the audience, I am a small town girl from Gary, Indiana. Most of you can relate to Gary, Indiana, because that's where the Jackson Five was birthed. But it is a very, very small town. It's a small town of mostly African American Black people. And I was born into an era of 70 babies where my parents were 15 and 16. And back in those days, grandparents took the responsibility
yeah,
of raising the children when they were out of wedlock and that young. And so my grandparents were of Pentecostal and Baptist faith. And so my maternal grandparents were Baptist, and my paternal grandparents were Pentecostal of the Kojic Church of God in Christ. And they were very traditionalist, and they believed that children should be basically seen and not heard. So that taught me very young to quiet my voice. And basically, I grew up with those values. I'm going to jump past that because ultimately, those same values is what really grounded me and gave me the firm
yeah,
foundation that I sit on today. So I'm not wanting to beat up my grandparents for some of the things that I had to kind of go through trial and tribulation in order to find my voice, because had it not been for those same values, it really catapulted me to my next level of success. So I'm grateful for
yeah,
them and that journey. But I do want to talk more about who am I and how I stand today, really ultimately, as Michelle Obama made reference to, becoming. We are all becoming. We have
yeah,
never really arrived. I don't care what we ever achieve in our walk in life. Our past doesn't really define us, but our past helps to build us, to make us stronger, and to get us from where we were to where we are. And so I want to really share my story as a young girl that grew up in Gary, Indiana, a girl that was of light skin, although a Black woman. I had hazel eyes, I had very, very fair skin, and I was predominantly around a lot of individuals that I could not see myself. And because of that, growing up in a school where it was predominantly Black and I didn't see a lot of my own skin color, I basically was bullied a lot of times. I remember that there was a cartoon that we used to watch called Casper the Friendly Ghost.
yeah. I
And
remember that.
yes, yes. And that was one of my favorite cartoons until I was literally in the first grade. I was sitting in the classroom and I was bullied, and they started singing Casper the Friendly Ghost to me,
Wow.
basically saying that I was somewhat of pale skin, invisible. And, even though friendly, it was kind of you being unique and different. And, so coming from a culture of traditionalists, of grandparents telling you to be quiet, child, you can be seen but not heard in a circle full of adults. And then you go to school in a public setting, and then you're bullied because you can't find your fair skin in the classroom. And so you're bullied, being told that you look like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I went to a sunken place at a very young age.
Yeah,
And it wasn't until my teenage years where I began to birth what I call trying to find myself of who I was and how I wanted to show up. But interesting enough, Dr. Pat, that was the beginning of a lot of bad relationships and illness and disorder. And I will start by sharing when you're told to be silent, and then in high school, you're starting to gain attention, but attention from all the wrong places.
Places.
I was trying to search out love through men. And they would tell me that I was, cute and, different and unique. And so all of the differences and uniqueness that I thought I needed to silence as a young girl, I then started to embrace because I was now starting to be told that by guys. Remember, my father was not around. He was, absent. So I was really trying to acquire an identity through others and them telling me who I was instead of owning who I was. So
Man.
that led to a lot of bad relationships. And I am a product of two failed marriages. I'm on my third, counting 7 years, 10 in relationship, 7 years in marriage, to an amazing partner. But before that, it led me to very bad relationships where I was mentally taken advantage of, um, physically told that I was not enough, and I started to believe those narratives, and that led to me getting ill. I ended up acquiring an autoimmune disease with alopecia, losing my hair, and I ended up with fibroid tumors and had to have emergency surgery and was told that I would never be able to have children. And it was just one thing after another of me
It's a
losing.
snowball.
Yes, it was
You
a
can't
snowball
stop
effect.
it. I mean, what you're sharing, I'm sitting here like, we don't have enough time to really go into detail, but
Yes.
I think about both of our backgrounds and, struggling right now with my own identity, finding out that my grandfather was actually not Italian. Uh, who hides that? So nobody thought the internet would be born, let alone ancestry, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
nobody back then thought you're gonna be able to look up grandpa and find out he was a farmer in Brazil. Oh, okay, that's why maybe I like Latin music. Hello. And my entire sister's side, my sister must have known, 12 years older than me, because she moved herself into the projects of Yonkers to raise her children who married Latina. So it's an interesting place to be. But look at our stories. I grew up not in Gary, Indiana. I grew up in the projects in the Bronx. I didn't understand the whole thing that I had to face when I was older. But I wasn't you. You see, I can get by with this face, right?
Yeah.
But not when your circle of friends and your sports coach is black. And I went to Plainfield High School because Mama Doris, my stepmom, had her first child at 12, second at 13. These women that had these young child, I'm telling you, there's
Yeah.
something we learned from them, right? But now we're talking about how did we go through life? How did you go through life? And what did you have to give up, Shareese? What
Yeah.
did you have to give up along the way to figure this out?
Yeah, so interesting story, and I share this in my book of The Power of One. Had it not been for a boss that I was introduced to, that basically took me under his wing and said, I am going to teach you everything that I know in order to help you, because I believe that he saw something in me that I could not at that time see in myself. So here I am in my early 20s, struggling tremendously because of the situations that I found myself in, making poor decisions, through hurt, through pain, through trauma, all of the things. I was willing to sacrifice what I had been told about myself, what I had been demonized in several relationships, that I was more than that. And I was not the summation of my past. So it was really about me remembering, going back
Mm,
to the foundation of how I grew up in my faith, And then the mentor of my boss taking me underneath his wings and basically showing me the way that if you're just willing to believe, just what we call as a mustard seed of faith,
Totally.
to to
Oh,
be able to spread your wings, and all of the things that you know that is inside of you, it's still there. And it's about you taking a chance and building up those things that already were gifted to you before you were even conceived in your mother's womb. I get
I
chills when I think about
I
it.
know, I just, like, got a thing, I'm starting to, like, move around in my chair a bit. But, let me ask you a question, a different question, but related to this. I go back and I think about this now as I'm writing a white paper because I clearly can't write a book, so now it's called a white paper. But I'm starting to look at some things, and I remember writing how grateful I was for my very young, age 6, Catholic school experience, ultimately getting expelled. I think I'm in the Guinness book for the youngest age being expelled from like a Catholic school. Um, but I think about that experience because that was the first time I had it's not the first time, it was the time alone where I had a conversation, a relationship with Jesus. And, when I say this, I get a ton of emails from like people out there. I thought you were this. And I thought, listen, I'm everything. I'm everything. The Hare Krishna people saved me from being homeless. But I never forget that experience. How have you weaved in and built the tapestry and held on to your faith, the mustard seed faith, which I love that? How have you held on to that so that now, beyond the sacrifice, you are shaping not just yourself, but you're shaping the world now, right, Shareese? You're
Absolutely.
shaping the world.
Yeah, it's reminding yourself of who our creator, our God, and through his son Jesus created us to be. I have to remind myself every
Yeah.
single day, not even when it was through the trauma and through the trials, but even today, that I am a child of the Most High God. I'm more than a conqueror. I have a resiliency that could have taken some people out completely, going through some of the things that I had to endure. But through those things, he showed me that I was more than a conqueror. And through that, he was like, and you're a teacher. You have an amazing wisdom through your grandparents that gave you the foundation to where you can birth things out in others that was birthed out in you through your own mentorship. And the legitimacy of the world is by shining your light so that you have the ability to change whatever atmosphere that you show up in. And to benefit the world in that way is so amazing.
Yeah. And look, I've been asked a lot of questions recently, and I'm getting ready to do, what do they call that? A tour, an interview tour, because of our network expansion. And I do get asked a number of different questions. But along the way, what are some of the questions you get asked? You may get asked a question, or what are your greatest challenges? Like today, what are your sacrifices? But I have now a pivotal question for you now. How has all of this shaped the future Shareese Evans?
Yes, I will say, Dr. Pat, that in shaping who I am today, it was aligning me through everything that I had to go through in order to come out on the other side. I give the kind of correlation of you cannot be a diamond unless you go through the pressing and the shaking and the pressure in order to come out on the other
Yeah.
side looking as bright as a diamond. And so with me aligning those struggles, my own illness through my autoimmune disease with alopecia, and having a sense of loss through, being told that I would not be able to have children and was able to. And then all of the failures of relationships and telling me what I wasn't, but to have those angels like my boss that was a mentor to basically say, you are more than what you're
Mm,
giving yourself credit for. Remember
yeah.
who you are. He saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself at the time. And that's how I give back to the world. I do the same thing. I connect with people in a meaningful way to basically say, I see something in you that you may not understand quite yet. You may feel, but you can't trace. And it's kind of the alignment of connecting the dots, of reminding people of who they are and what they were meant to be, to become the better version of themselves than what they're currently basically accepting in their lives.
So what we're talking about though right now is, and let's go over this because you're going to share something with folks listening, because like you, there's this idea of reshaping our story. And as we reshape our story, we have to stop doing some things. And one of the things that I love that you talk about, and let's walk people through this, because there is a way to go from pain to purpose and power. And hello, we're using the word power. You see, that is a word that women, hello, maybe we're not supposed to use. But let's talk about that transformation and what you did. One of the things I know you talk about is to stop asking for permission. OMG.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to rewire a whole lot of things in there, right?
So when you think about stop asking for permission, women especially, we have imposter syndrome, which says that we are not enough. We may not know enough, even when we know that we're capable. We can have degrees behind degrees behind degrees, but yet when we show up not confident in the things that we know that we can achieve. And I think some of it is systemic, meaning that we're in a world where, as we've heard the song, this is a man's world, right? But we know that behind every good man there is a powerful woman. So it's understanding that we as women are powerful, and it's about stop asking for permission in order to get to the level that we know resides in all of us, and all we have to do is to begin to walk it out. So what does that mean? Overcoming barriers of things that you have about yourself, in imposter syndrome of self-doubt, fear, failure, procrastination, limiting beliefs, gaining clarity about moving beyond where you are to where you know that you want to be and know that you can be, and then creating a game plan, making sure that whatever it is, you have to put it in writing, and then you have to move. You have to move with consistency, determination, and discipline. Those are the things that's going to help you to get to your next level and become that version of yourself that you knew was already on the inside of you.
This is a very short show for the content that we're talking about, and I want to be very clear that we're really giving people the cliff notes on this, but it is so very very important. Shareese, I don't know if you know this, but I started a foundation in 2023, have yet to launch it for priority reasons. Women, it's called Voices in Empowering Women View. And I started it because of what you're saying now, because what I saw coming out of the pandemic. Now my friend sends me an email, my graduate friend from Plainfield High School, that's a whole nother show, um, and says, Baccili, that's my name, are you following the news? And I'm like, Gwen, I don't follow it. And the bottom line is, here's where we are, and here's your work, right? 500,000 women have left the workforce since
Yes.
January.
Yes.
So, in these closing moments, I know you don't only work with women, neither do I, but there's an underlying message here in what you're sharing today. What is the message you want to leave with people? Because I know what it's like to leave a job. I know the pain. So do you. What do you
Yes.
want to say to people, and what tips do you want to give them?
So I would like to say, and shout out to I believe the number is 320,000 Black women that have been
Yes,
laid
yes.
off
Thank
from the
you.
start of this year
Thank you
until
for
now.
that.
So,
Yep.
so if you put those numbers together, I mean, we're what? Almost in the million, a million people not in the workplace, and people of color as well as you know, as a whole, women. And so I really want to let people know that if you are feeling unfulfilled, either in your career or your life, you were created with everything that you were meant to be from the time that you were created in your mother's womb, whether your parents were basically wanting you or not, planned for you or not. You are here, and you are here because there's work and there's purpose in your life for you to do. And if you can just hone in to what is the thing that I have that separates me from every other human being on the planet Earth. We all have a DNA, and we're uniquely designed in order to walk out that gift, whatever that thing is. And so, as the work that I do as a coach, that is my mission. I lead with empathy, compassion, purpose, and precision. It is the work that I do every day to birth out what has been laying dormant or to help you connect the dots because you don't have the right clarity. So it's to really get into alignment with what you have been called to do and to get busy doing it. Whether or not there's a job that was out there that is no longer, or you're currently in a career that is unfulfilling, whatever that may look like, I want to work with you.
Yeah. In order to do that, thank you so much for today. But let's make sure people know how to follow you. What's your website? Give us some information. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability. It's something that we do need to do more often. And I'm telling you from where I sit, it's not that easy. But thank you so much. And how do people find out more about you and actually work with you?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, shareevans.com. It's ShareEvans.com. And basically, all the information is there. And I also want to pitch my book, which is The Power of One, the Five Essential Keys to Success. And in our next segment, we will make a deeper dive in reference to why I chose to write the book in the timely fashion that I did. And it was because of COVID that birthed that book out.
I love it. Thank you so much, Shareese. And thank you all out there because this is an invitation to really step in and own your story, all of it. And know that no matter what you look at, no matter what the reflection is in the mirror, there's always a window that is crystal clear, holding you at the highest. And the highest is based on love and what we talked about. But don't forget the mustard seed. Shareese, thank you for everything. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.